welcome back to another episode of Fun Friday Ideas with me, Susan, your speech language pathologist. For today's Fun Friday idea, I want us to think about attention, and is this something that we can make small changes and small activities throughout our day to improve not only our own attention, but the attention of our child as well. Attention is a skill that we're born with, but we have to learn how to use it. When we're first born, attention is a bottom-up approach. It's stimulus driven, as we say. Basically what happens is something occurs, a stimulus occurs around us, and we focus our attention on it to see what we need to learn from that. As we get older, we start to learn how to coordinate our attention. Just like we learn to coordinate the muscles of our body, we learn to coordinate and direct our attention. Once we start to master that, we realize, hey, we can actually direct the attention of others as well. And that's where we start getting into the joint attention, which I'm sure is something that we're all very familiar with because it's something that we work on a lot with our kids. Joint attention is our ability to both focus and pay attention to the same thing. There's also a couple different types of joint attention. There's responding to joint attention and initiating joint attention, in addition to our sustained joint attention. So responding to joint attention is when someone else is telling you to look at something, so you look at it. And initiating joint attention is when you want someone else to look at something, so you tell them to look at it. Pretty straightforward there, but this is actually an area where some of our children have some breakdowns, especially when it comes to the responding to joint attention. That's where some of our kids don't really understand when you're trying to direct their attention to something, and that's really where the breakdown might be with their joint attention. The way to work on that is to be really expressive and also to follow your child's cues. So the best way to teach joint attention is by being jointly attentive yourself. Follow their lead, and then as they start to initiate that joint attention with you, you can start to also show them, hey, I can do this too. Look over here. Again, make sure it's something they're interested in. Otherwise, why are they going to attend to it? With our joint attention, we have something called temporal attention that starts to form during that first year of life. Temporal attention is where we learn that things happen in a certain order of time. This is crucial for our language development because what is language but sounds in time? In our first years of life, we're always paying attention to patterns and sequences and the order of things. And now we're talking about how this relates to our attention and our language development too. If we have a breakdown in our temporal attention, then our word order is off. Our sounds are off. We're not able to sequence the sounds in the right patterns. Isn't that fascinating how these skills all go hand in hand? So we have to be able to pay attention, understand that these things occur in a time sequence. We also have our visual attention and our auditory attention. So both of those are basically just as they sound. Our visual attention is our ability to just tune out everything else except what our vision is telling us, and our auditory attention is able to tune out everything except what our auditory system is telling us. I like thinking about that auditory attention as when you have your headphones in and you're on the bus and you can't really see what's going on in front of you. Something can happen right in front of you and you don't even see it because you're so into the music that you're listening to. Same with your visual attention. That's something that I find these iPhones and our tablets and our screens really capture so well, is our visual attention. I can tell you on more than one occasion where something has happened auditorily around me, but I haven't been able to hear it because I was so consumed by the screen in front of me. I'm sure you have times like that as well. With our joint, temporal, visual, and auditory attention, when those all develop, you can see how that very clearly corresponds with our overall development, with our play skills, our cognitive skills, our language skills. You can see that very well. When it comes to our academics and our schoolwork, we have other types of attention that really tend to either shine or hold us back. There's selective attention, which is something that's been going along this whole time, and that's our ability to focus on one thing at a time. Think about that as the flashlight in the dark room. If you turn off all the lights and you have a flashlight and you shine it on the wall, You only see that one little area at a time. That's your selective attention. Divided attention is when there's something else going on, some sort of background noise. So maybe with that flashlight, you turn the dimmer switch up a little bit so the lighting isn't pitch black. Now it's, just a little bit lit in the room. How does that affect how clearly what that flashlight is trying to shine? How does that affect it? You can also think about this, about how some of our kids like to, they're studying with their textbook, but then they put their headphones on because they want to listen to Ariana Grande. So now their attention is divided between the song that's on their ears and what they're trying to read in their textbook. Our next type of attention is something that also has been developing this whole time, but is our sustained attention. This is our ability to pay attention to one thing for an extended period of time. We developed it hand in hand with our joint attention. Usually the stronger your joint attention skills, the stronger your sustained attention skills are going to be, because that's what's initially reinforce that sustained attention, is being able to pay attention to the same thing with your caregiver. Like I've talked about before, we always do these co-regulated play sessions, and with that joint attention and that co-regulated emotional state, it improves your sustained attention abilities because you find whatever it is rewarding and you learn how to pay attention to one thing for a longer period of time. We also have our alternating attention. So now back to our Ariana Grande and our textbook. So we have our textbook, we're reading our textbook, we're listening to Ariana Grande, but we also need to take notes. So we're taking notes. This is our alternating attention. So now we're reading our textbook and we're alternating to taking notes while we're reading, alternating back and forth. That alternating attention goes hand in hand with your working memory and your ability to hold that information, do something with it, and then produce a product. We're going to talk about working memory a little bit later on in a couple of weeks. Now, for the real reason why I'm sure you guys are here is, how do we improve our attention skills? If it's something that we were born with, is it just there, or is it something that we can actually improve upon? And the great news is, guess what? You can improve it. So one thing to realize with attention is that attention is a skill that is based on, first, our sensory needs being met. So we need to make sure that we are not hungry, that we've eaten our lunch. We need to make sure that we're not super tired, that we've had our nap, we've had a good night's sleep, and that we're also not restless, that our body has moved around a little bit. We all have different needs when it comes to how much we need to move around, and it's important that in order for us to pay full attention, that maybe we need to go walk around the block first. I know that's something I need to do. If I need to focus, I have to go for a walk first. Some other things you can do. I know sustained attention is a very difficult thing for our kids. Sustained attention, one of the hardest parts about it is that there is no end in sight. And our kids struggle with that. And one thing I've found is that our use of digital clocks doesn't teach time management, which goes hand in hand with sustained attention. You have to be able to manage time over a sustained period for that sustained attention piece. With digital clocks, what we learn to do is we learn to count down. We don't learn to actually manage time. So what I'm going to recommend to you is, if your child has a digital clock in their study space, get rid of it. Replace it with that old school clock that we all know and love from school. And one thing to make sure, make sure it has a plastic cover, because what we're going to do is we're going to get some expo markers and we're going to use these to help us learn how to manage time. So what you can do, at first your kids aren't going to understand, what takes 5 minutes, what takes 10 minutes to do, things like that. So help them a little bit with this. Okay, we're going to do some homework. I think it's going to take you 10 minutes to do these problems. So here we go. 10 minutes to do the problems, and then you color it in that red. After that 10 minutes, we'll see how you're doing with your homework, and we'll move around. We'll take a little movement break as well. Or maybe Johnny's coming over. And so we know that Johnny is coming over at 9:15, or excuse me, at 10:15. Johnny's coming over at 10:15. So we need to be done with our homework by 10:15 if we want to play with Johnny. So that way we can see we have from here to here to finish our problem, our homework problems. We can even do a little halfway point, so we can check and see how we're doing with our homework at our halfway point. By giving your kids a clock such as this, now they can actually see time passing by. And this will help them in visualizing and conceptualizing time, and then also seeing an endpoint to when they can stop paying attention to whatever it is that they're working so hard on. So this is something I highly recommend you guys implement in your study area. You may also find that it's helpful for you too. Some other great ways to work on alternating attention and that working memory piece. I love card games like Go Fish, where you have your deck of cards right here, your hand, but you have to also try and remember what the other person has in their hand. And so again, Old Maid, Go Fish, games along that nature. Memory is another one that's great for working on that alternating memory. So, and I'll sometimes throw in distractor tasks. So maybe we'll do a couple rounds of memory. Okay, now let's do this puzzle real quick. Oh, let's get back to memory. Puzzle real quick. Memory, puzzle real quick. So again, we're going back and forth. We're alternating that memory back and forth. We have to still remember, oh, where were those cards again? Oh, they were right here and right here. Okay, I found a match. Woohoo! Okay, back to my puzzle over here. Let me do a couple things over here. So again, that alternating memory, remember the focus there is to hold something in your brain and work with it and then give it out, give an output. Another thing that I'll sometimes do is have a recall, a picture recall. I'll give 3 pictures and then again, a distractor task like a memory game or a puzzle or an obstacle, a small little obstacle to go over. And then what were those 3 pictures again? What were those 3 words? What were those numbers, or whatever it might be? A little game there that I like to use for building alternating memory skills there, or alternating attention skills. Another great one when it comes to our visual memory and our auditory memory are hidden pictures and hidden sounds. Hidden pictures, I'm sure you remember those from highlights growing up, and that's where we have the visual array of different pictures where you have to find the other little smaller pictures within it. This is great for getting those eye muscles going and getting that visual attention really honed in on looking for a small detail. I also like word searches for visual attention. Word searches are perfect for really getting that muscle moving when it comes to visual attention, when it comes to letters. Hidden sounds is a fun little game that I like, where what you do is you play a sound effect, like let's say it's a fire engine, okay, a wee 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 fire engine siren, and give your kids something to do whenever they hear the fire engine sound. All right, whenever you hear the fire engine sound, I want you to twirl 3 times. Now, play some background music, play some just background sounds, and every so often, play that fire truck sound, wee 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 wee. They have to constantly be listening for that in order to spin 3 times. All right, guys, so I hope that we were able to learn a few things about attention and how complex attention really is, but that there are some little things you can do during the day to exercise that muscle and get it feeling better, or that you can structure to time manage a little bit better. And the better your time management skills, the better your attention skills will be, because there's an end in sight, and that is half the battle when it comes to paying attention. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Take care.